He thought his past was buried, until his daughter ran to a boy in the park and called him brother. In that moment, the life he built began to unravel, and a second chance took root. The wind rustled through Maplewood Park as Nolan Fletcher adjusted his tie, pacing a few feet behind his 7-year-old daughter Claire. It was one of those rare Saturdays when the CEO of Fletcher Holdings made time to just be dad. Claire was chasing pigeons near the fountain when she suddenly froze. Her eyes locked on a boy sitting alone on a bench, eating an apple, wearing a worn blue jacket and mismatched shoes. She turned, breathless. "Daddy," she said, tugging his hand. "That's my brother." Nolan blinked. "Claire, you don't have a brother." "Yes, I do. That's him." She said it with such certainty that it unsettled him. He glanced at the boy, slender, caramel-skinned, shaggy curls, eyes the same almond shape as Claire's. The resemblance was eerie. He approached the boy slowly. "Hey there, what's your name?" "Noel," the boy answered, cautious but polite. "I'm waiting for my mom." Nolan's heart thudded. Noel. Claire's birth name had almost been Noel. Coincidence or fate? Later that night, Nolan couldn't shake the image of the boy's face. He opened his encrypted personnel database and typed a name he hadn't thought of in nearly a decade. Rhea Donovan. Once a promising assistant in marketing, Rhea had been dismissed years ago for violation of confidentiality during a product leak scandal. He remembered her now, quiet, composed, and visibly pregnant during her final week. He had been told the baby wasn't his, but something about the boy's eyes unsettled him. The files showed Rhea had left without severance and without a fight. No lawsuit, no appeal. She'd just disappeared, and she had emailed him several times. He clicked one of her old messages. The subject read, "You deserve to know." He had never opened it until now. He clicked through the messages one after the other. There were 5, all ignored. In the first, she wrote with restraint, "I know we didn't part well, but I believe you should know I'm having a child. There's a chance he's yours." By the 5th, her tone had changed. "I don't expect anything from you. I just didn't want him to grow up not knowing where he came from, Noel." The math lined up. The timelines intersected with cold, brutal logic. He had been too focused on a billion-dollar IPO, too proud, too scared. Now he didn't know what he feared more, the truth, or what it would mean to claim it. Claire insisted on going back to the park. She wanted to play with her brother. Nolan didn't say no when they arrived. Noel wasn't alone. A woman stood beside him, smiling faintly. Short curls, faint lines near her mouth from years of quiet worry. "Rhea," Nolan breathed. Her eyes met his, and in that moment he knew she recognized him too. "What do you want?" she asked flatly. He glanced at Noel, then back. "To talk," she tilted her head. "I own a bakery 2 blocks from here. Come if you're serious." The sign over the door read Solace and Crumbs. It was modest, warm, and full of laughter, run by a woman who had built peace from the ruins of shame. The test was clinical. Swabs, signatures, sterile rooms. The results arrived in an envelope Nolan opened alone. Probability of paternity 99.98%. He had a son. Not a maybe, not a mistake. A living, breathing boy who loved chocolate chip muffins and adored his mother. Nolan stood outside the bakery the next morning, letter in hand. Rhea opened the door but said nothing. He offered the envelope. "I already knew," she said softly. He nodded. "I'm sorry." "For which part?" "All of it." And the journey of redemption began, not with fireworks, but with a father quietly sitting in the corner of a bakery every morning. Nolan had never shopped for cereal before, or compared milk prices, or stood in line with a food stamp card while someone behind him sighed. So he started showing up with groceries. Nothing fancy, just basics. Bread, eggs, toothpaste, quiet offerings left at the back door. He never rang, but Rhea began to leave a muffin for him on the bakery counter, warm, fresh. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was something. Claire and Noel met often now. After school, on weekends, they built cities from Legos, traded stickers, and drew superheroes with matching capes. They didn't care about DNA, they just wanted to be siblings. One day, Claire looked up and asked, "Will Noel ever live with us too?" Nolan froze. Noel looked at the ground. "I like my home." "I know," Nolan said, "and I'm learning to like yours too." The headlines exploded. Fletcher's secret son, illegitimate heir or PR disaster. Reporters camped outside the bakery. Rhea closed early, afraid for Noel. Nolan could have denied it. Instead, he held a press conference. "I have a son. I failed his mother. That is not a scandal. It is my responsibility." The board hated it. Stocks dipped, but Rhea, she watched the broadcast with tears she never expected to cry. After the storm, things quieted. The bakery reopened. Customers doubled. Rhea told him, "I don't want your money," he said. "I know. That's why I trust you with mine." He meant it. He gave her full creative control of a foundation to support single mothers, silent partnership, her name only. It was more than reparation, it was respect. Nolan sat between Claire and Rhea at Noel's school play. Noel forgot his line, froze. From the crowd Nolan stood and mouthed it to him. Noel smiled, nodded, and kept going. Later backstage he hugged Nolan tight. "Thanks, Dad." It was the first time he said it. And Nolan cried, in the janitor's closet, out of sight. There were no handbooks for the life they were building. No checklists for navigating parent-teacher conferences when two children had different last names, or managing custody weekends that weren't court-ordered but chosen with trust. Rhea and Nolan sat across from one another at the bakery's corner table, discussing summer camps and bedtime routines over lukewarm coffee. "I'm not trying to replace you," Nolan said carefully. "I know," Rhea replied, stirring cream into her cup, "but you're learning how to be a parent. That takes more than money." Nolan nodded. "And I'm learning to listen." They weren't a couple, but they were a team. One bound by responsibility, children's laughter, and a shared desire to get it right. Sometimes Nolan forgot to pack extra socks. Sometimes Rhea snapped when overwhelmed. But they apologized, adjusted. They showed the kids that adults can grow too. One night, while brushing her teeth, Claire glanced up at Nolan in the mirror and asked, "If Noel's my brother, why don't I have the same mom?" Nolan sat on the edge of her bed and thought hard before answering. "Because people change. Sometimes we make choices we don't fully understand until later." "Did you love her?" He didn't lie. "I didn't know her well enough to love her, but I respect her now." Claire nodded solemnly, like a small judge delivering a verdict. "I think that counts." Then she smiled. "Can I call her my other mom?" That night, Nolan sent Rhea a text. "Claire asked if she could call you her other mom. I said yes if you're okay with it." Rhea replied moments later, "Tell her I'd be honored." Despite Nolan's press conference months earlier, his board wasn't done with the fallout. They summoned him to a closed-door meeting. "We're considering a vote to remove you as CEO," one member said. "This scandal has hurt our brand." Nolan leaned forward. "Then your brand needs fixing." He spoke of transparency, of being more than a figurehead. "I built this company, and I'm not afraid to walk away from it to protect my children's truth." The board didn't expect defiance, but more than that, they didn't expect dignity. When the vote was finally cast, Nolan remained CEO, but on his terms. The company later unveiled a new initiative, Fletcher Forward, pledging support to working families, single parents, and childcare reforms. Some investors balked, but the public responded. Ray's Bakery expanded, not with franchises, but with purpose. She partnered with Nolan to open 3 more Lucia's Dream bakeries in underserved communities, each one employing single mothers and offering flexible hours, childcare, and financial literacy programs. The dream wasn't just her mother's anymore. It became a community. At the ribbon cutting of the 3rd location, Rhea stood at the podium. "I was once fired without dignity. I raised a child in silence. Today I rise not in bitterness, but in belief that women like me deserve more." Nolan stood in the background, proud. He didn't need the spotlight. He had found something better, impact without ego. It was pneumonia, a strong one. Rhea was frantic. Nolan stayed by her side at the hospital, never leaving the room. He brought Claire to visit, held Ray's hand during the IV changes, and made blanket forts when Noel could barely stay awake. One night, Rhea whispered, "I used to cry alone when he got sick." Nolan looked up. "You'll never be alone again." She didn't reply, but she didn't let go of his hand either. They watched over their son together. Winter blanketed the city in white, and school was canceled. Claire and Noel made snow angels outside the bakery while Rhea and Nolan cleaned up after the morning rush. A song played on the old stereo, something slow and old-fashioned. Rhea turned, dish towel in hand. Nolan offered a hand, half joking. "Dance with me." She hesitated, then stepped forward. In flour-dusted shoes and aprons they moved slowly. Not lovers, not strangers. 2 people who had been broken and were learning to be whole. Outside, the children laughed. Inside, time stood still. "Why haven't you asked Rhea to dinner?" Claire asked bluntly, eating cereal at the kitchen table. Nolan nearly choked on his coffee. "What? You like her? She likes you. You're both single. And we already act like a family." Nolan smiled. "It's not that simple." Claire shrugged. "Grown-ups make everything harder than it is." That night he stood outside the bakery with takeout and nerves. "I didn't bring muffins," he told Rhea. "I brought dinner. For you. Just you." She smiled and said yes. Months passed. Seasons shifted. One Sunday the family gathered in the park, the same one where it all began. Claire and Noel ran ahead, chasing kites and laughter. Nolan pulled a box from his coat. Ray's eyes widened. "If that's an engagement ring, don't," he chuckled. "It's not." Inside was a ring, yes. But engraved on it were 4 names: Nolan, Rhea, Claire, Noel. "This isn't about marriage, it's a promise," he said. "To what?" "To always choose this family. However we define it." She touched the ring and whispered, "That's the only vow I've ever needed." For Christmas, the kids handed their parents a drawing. It showed 4 stick figures holding hands, too tall, too small, a bakery behind them, A park in front, at the bottom, written in crayon, "Our family forever." Rhea held back tears. Nolan didn't. They hung the picture in both the bakery and Nolan's office, two worlds once broken, now bridged. Life didn't become perfect. Bills still came. Kids still argued. Mistakes were still made. But they were made together with respect, patience, and grace. One morning, as the family walked to the bakery hand in hand, a reporter recognized them. "Mr. Fletcher, would you call this a redemption arc?" Nolan smiled. "No," he said. "I'd call it a beginning." Subscribe for more deeply human stories that remind us no past is too messy, no heart too broken, and no family too untraditional to be worth saving, because every second chance begins with one brave step forward.